Oh, okay. 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 Well, we had considered exploring the virtue of compassion before.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were talking about the reality of the amount of suffering, that the depth of suffering that appears to be on a global basis, not just personally, but, I mean, personally, yes, we're suffering, but the global extent of it seems to be ramping up somehow. Or it's certainly our awareness of it. And in the midst of that, without closing our eyes to it or without detaching ourselves from it and saying, well, I'm okay, is there a virtue that we can consciously pull in to both embrace that and possibly hold it or something? Not heal it. We won't be able to heal it, but hold it somehow.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, it strikes me that in some sense you are you're calling, I think you're calling for something like virtue itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is virtue? Yeah. In the midst of this horrific reality,
Mm-hmm.
what is virtue? Where is virtue? Where can I find it? Where can I pull in something?
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the face of the, in the fire of this, what can I, and I'm, what can I pull down?
Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Daniel?
Does that refer, Daniel, possibly to Christ saying, follow me? You were talking about that before.
Yeah. So I think it has to do with, we have as human beings, there's this proclivity to see or witness suffering from afar, kind of as if we're in the Platonic cave and we just watch everything as spectators.
Mm-hmm.
And that, let's say, Christ calls us to take a leap and become his disciples and move into that direction where we can realize virtue as virtue.
Yeah.
But I think
you guys, for context, you guys are currently reading Luke together.
Yeah, we are reading. I have a group where we read the New Testament translation from David Bentley Hart that was released, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not sure. This is the book.
Show the book. Yeah. David Bentley Hart.
John Lavecki is also doing Lectio Divina on it.
Yeah.
It's compared to standard translations. It's weird. There's many things are different. So that's all I would say to that.
He's translating directly from the Greek, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It was originally written in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So virtue as virtue. I think the first thing is that what Sandra said, we learn to hold it. We don't take ourselves out of the equation, but we kind of realize that we are also in this in some real way.
Yeah.
Although we might not suffer, let's say, as much as, I don't know, someone who has just lost someone because of some act of war, or has lost someone because of some, I don't know, some fire that's going on somewhere, or something. That's I think one important part in compassion or in virtue as such, that we take the cross onto ourselves. It seems to be something like the first step.
Because it's like that there's virtue, right, is already announcing something, right? It's already, right? It's like structure, there's a certain, it's like something about the structure of being, right? And that there is virtue. And the question is, what is it? What is virtue? And I think Sandra is a great person to begin answering that question. And how do you guys, I want to do a little bit of experiment this time too with the practice, where we go time, actually, the eduction time.
Yeah.
Do like 10 minutes. And then just wherever we are at 10 minutes, after the 10 minutes, then we go into appreciation, right? And maybe we go around a couple of times.
Okay. Yeah. We've been not doing that.
Then,
sort of,
I think that's good when we add more structure to it.
Yeah.
I would say that the scribe is also watching the time.
Yeah.
So the other two people can focus really on the process.
Okay.
So the scribe can make an alarm or look at the time or so. Sandra, who shall be the first educer?
So I'm the first proposer, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm proposing that virtue.
Who's the educer? Is Daniel?
Yeah, I can be. Yeah,
okay.
I can be the listener.
I'm gonna let the dog in because she's whining. Okay. She thought everyone had abandoned her. She was suffering. So virtue is the wholehearted acceptance of my humanity.
Virtue is the wholehearted acceptance of my humanity.
And by my humanity, I don't mean my separate humanity. I mean my participation in collective humanity. There's nothing, so I don't entertain any idea of possible escape for me while the rest of you suffer. You know, that doesn't even enter into the picture for me. Do you know what I'm saying there? Yeah, that it isn't even a possibility in my mind that I can be different from the rest of humanity in being able to you know, suffer or escape while everyone else, poor, you know, the poor dummies suffer, you know. There's none of that, because in my wholehearted acceptance of my humanity, I am totally in participation with all.
When you do this, what you just did, how does that feel?
It's a collective, create? It's sort of like collecting all of every aspect of all of humanity, and I am that. Yeah.
What this is also, what are you doing when you?
I am solidly in and of that beingness of humanity. Yeah. I have no intimations of an escape route. Here I am, right in the middle. Yeah.
So almost from this realm you've opened up with your hands. There's no escape.
No.
You accept this realm fully with everything that's in it.
Yeah.
All the beauty,
everything,
all the tragedy,
all the beauty, all the ugliness, all the cruelty, all the love, all of that. Yeah. So that for me is virtue. As I am being burned at the stake, that virtue, if I can practice that virtue as my body is being burned at the stake, that I think is virtue.
Being burned at the stake, that is virtue. Can you say more about the relation between this realm that that embraces all the beauty and the ugliness, let's say, all the contradictions of life?
Yeah.
How is virtue connected to that?
Okay. The image for me, why I said burned at the stake is I've often wondered, if I were burned at the stake, would I be able to rise to the occasion and somehow pull in a continuing through line to God at that point, or would I lose faith, basically, and that ultimate test of suffering would be the ultimate test of my ability, of my virtue, basically, of my ability to practice virtue. So that's why I pulled in that image. But and I'm kind of thinking that at the very bottom of it, we can talk about virtue, right? And theorize about it. But to actually be it, it would be only in a situation that dire that we would know if we're up to the task of actually, being virtuous. Yeah. Yeah. And only in my full embrace and acceptance and peace with the moment, would I know that I am approaching a level of virtue.
So virtue has this trait, let's say, that it is itself in need of being something like tested.
Yeah.
It's like I think Jesus Christ speaks also in the Gospels about this. The faith is something, it has to be challenged from time to time so it can grow. It can really manifest itself as faith. Um,
You want to hear your original virtue?
Yeah.
Virtue is the wholehearted acceptance of my collective humanity.
When you hear that sentence, Sandra, and you think about this very horrifying image of someone being burned to the stake at the stake, do you want to add some emphasis to your original statement that embraces even that?
Yeah, I'd like to be able to do that. And it has to do with collective humanity, because if in that moment I can see myself as no different from the one who you know who put the straw in the wood, who lit that in order to burn me, and all the hatred and all that stuff that was directed to me, that I am no different from that there is no difference between me and those who are burning me. If I could really know that collective, that this is, there is no difference between me and them. That level of collectiveness, of what unity, I suppose, or what would the word for that be? I am the same as everyone else, and everyone else is, is like somehow collective humanity seems kind of a lame way of saying that, but but that's what I mean. That there is no difference.
So virtue has something to do with the sameness of all human beings.
Of humanity, yeah. But I think I just have to stay with that collective humanity phrase, unless you have a better suggestion. I don't know how else to say it.
Not for now.
36 seconds.
I think that's good. Do you wanna add something, Sandra? Otherwise, I will anticipate.
Well, it's a start. It's just a start.
It's a start.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
So I will appreciate and anticipate, and then Sandra, I think you can respond one more time if you were heard.
Okay.
And then I will go on. So I appreciate it's really this movement that you enacted with your body, kind of what I'm doing also right now, this a lot. This wholehearted embrace by acceptance, as you said, of all of humanity, of the people who suffer really the worst things, but also this kind of like the people who inflict the suffering, both the sinners and those who have to go through these pains. So all of the worst and the best. So virtue is somehow an acknowledgement of that, a wholehearted acceptance. I'm still a little bit puzzled what this acknowledgement really is. What is its nature, and how that is virtue. That I'm still not quite how this becomes virtue, really virtue. So, but I can see, right, you said the word participation. I think that's important. It has really to do that a participatory aspect of, let's say, me and the entire humanity. So yes, I thought that was excellent. It's very good as a start to kind of like set also a foundation from which we can proceed.
Yeah, so I definitely felt heard. I like your question about that, because I also have a question about that. You know, about how, like, where does that, in essence, who is practicing virtue if if there is no separation, right? And who is being virtuous? I mean, you know, like, but yeah, so it opens up that question for me, because certainly if I say, well, I am being virtuous, I've already separated myself, you know.
So yeah, that this opens now a whole new gate, just this whole thing of equality, oneness. That's another mystery, perhaps. Okay, so I'll proceed now, okay, to my...
Okay. So
and I will deduce.
You're the educer, okay.
And you'll be scribe.
And I'll be the timer as well, right?
Yes, 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So Daniel.
Yeah.
What is virtue?
Okay, I will say this. Virtue is the wholehearted gathering of all possible perspectives and an equal participation with them.
Okay, I'll read this back to you. Virtue is the wholehearted
gathering.
Yeah, is the wholehearted gathering of all possible perspectives. Yes. And equal participation with them.
Yes.
Virtue is the wholehearted gathering of all possible perspectives and equal participation with them.
Yeah, well, maybe participation in equality with them. I hope this was clear.
So virtue is the wholehearted gathering of all possible perspectives and equal participation, or participation with them equally.
Inequality, yeah, or equally, something like that. Yeah.
Possible perspectives and
with them equally. Okay.
Right. With them equally.
Okay.
So there's a gathering, and a participation in that gathering that involves all possible perspectives.
Yes. So this was really kind of what I don't know, my sense really what I could build off from Sandra's proposal. The gathering aspect was so strong in her body language, in her enactment. And for me, acceptance has to do with gathering. We gather all of that in our heart, in our heart. That's what it means to do it wholeheartedly. And because Sandra was a little bit unsatisfied with the term collective, so I tried to kind of like invoke this aspect of multi-perspectival. So kind of like the multiple perspectives, right? That not just we as human beings have, but that we could say also other sentient beings or other beings just in general have. They all have, in a sense, a perspective. And we in our humanity, we are very multi-perspectival creatures in a sense. We can become sinners, we can become saints, there can be conversions. But accepting or gathering is that we hold all these perspectives, which are almost inexhaustible. We hold them all together, and we really say, okay, virtue is that I participate, or I can relate myself to all of these perspectives. The most angelic ones, but also the most demonic ones. I create a participation through my being, where I participate with them equally. Because this is, I think, that one aspect of virtue is, okay, I could say, I go only to the good. I only aspire to the good. But then often, for example, in Buddhism, there's also this emphasis, go back to hell. It's easy to be virtuous when you're just good. Go back to the lower realms. Just as in Plato, for example, right? You don't just stay outside where it's nice and bright. You go back to the cave. And I think that's what really constitutes virtue, this all-embracing quality.
So this all-embracing quality, right, gathers in the form of possible perspectives and participates with them equally. So one of the things I'm wondering about is this perspectives, the all possible perspectives. From where is this all perspective derived? Like, what is the source of these perspectives?
Just the world and all beings that are in my world. Being in the world, we want to say that in this being in the world is, because in being in the world is also, them are also, it's what Heidegger calls Mitdasein, Mitsein, being with. In being in the world, I'm also being with all these perspectives, all these other beings.
Totally.
So that's a source, if you will. Being in the world is what calls virtue forth.
Okay, so there's something about it should, I think I have something there about where participation, right, and perspective was in there. I just heard it in a sense say that like this. So the source of the all the possible perspectives is what I find myself already in, being in the world, right? Find myself gathered, right, in a world, right, and gathered by it in some sense, right? And in that participation that I'm already underway in is the source of all the possible perspectives that I'm already engaged in. So is that being?
It has, with engagement in being or with being in the world. Because all of what we just said kind of like is also a trait of being in the world.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
perhaps virtue has something to do with realizing all of being in the world.
Yeah. So virtue has something to do with realizing all being in the world.
Yes. Yes. And again, not making distinctions, but just kind of like realizing it all together.
There's 10 minutes.
All right.
Okay, then.
All right. So let's just see if you want to change this at all, right? Or if this really says it. So Daniel, I asked Daniel, what is virtue? And Daniel says, virtue is the wholehearted gathering of all possible perspectives and participation with them equally. Does that say it?
I'm fine with that. I don't know how to integrate the being in the world aspect right now in that statement. I'm fine.
I'll see if I can wrestle with it a bit. Okay, so
Daniel, you're the scribe and I'm the educer, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting him. I'm appreciating him, anticipation, mystery.
Okay.
Right. I'm still like.
Oh, you're still doing that. Sorry. Yeah.
So essentially, like, I think what you're saying, right, or what's coming through you with this is that virtue it seems like it's in the very constituents of being and being human, right? That it's really of what I could get the sense is really of being in the world, right? There's something about our being in the world that has a particular openness, right, to like the world as such, other beings, differences, right? So there's all these possibilities that seem to arrive from our relationships, right, that we find ourselves in. And virtue is that thing that it's like the gathering of all of those possible perspectives, right?
Yeah.
And seems to influence in some way that's still kind of mysterious how we participate with those perspectives, those possible perspectives.
Yeah, that sounds very good.
Okay, I got it. Okay. What I'm appreciating, man, this is it's like one of the things I'm appreciating is actually the mystery of this, right? What I'm appreciating about this is a sense, I'm appreciating the kind of the sense of that virtue is this actually has to do with everything, but also a constraint with this everything, like a perspective, right? Like there's this kind of sense is like, well, there's my perspective, yet I'm somehow gathering all, in some sense, all possible perspectives, and I'm one, right? And virtue is the tension or something. I think I'm appreciating that this kind of living, there's a livingness about being in the world, being engaged, that virtue is seems to be like very constituting or something really deep is what I'm appreciating about your proposal, right?
Yeah, that's very good.
Cool. What's mysterious to me, well, here's what I would anticipate is that that there's something about telos here, and possibility, and something about some kind of something about virtue and a deep confrontation, right, with being. Like there's something about, or that maybe virtue is something about that, the thing that puts us in confrontation with being, right, or reveals our confrontation with being. So I kind of get the sense that I anticipate that this proposal about virtue will shed light on this kind of inevitable destiny of our both our the possibility and inevitable incompleteness, right? Intention that it is to be human. So I think I anticipate a deeper appreciation of why we're all so tense, right? And
so hard.
Yeah. Wow, we're all so constipated and
trying to get there.
Yeah.
All right.
And,
okay, so
what's mysterious to me? Yeah.
I want to say I would start the timer. I thought you were finished with the mystery. So now Sandra can
all right.
ask you.
Right. So Guy, what is virtue?
Yeah. So I want to play off. I want to continue this with it. So let me just kind of read through Daniel's and then see what comes through. So virtue is the wholehearted gathering of all possible perspectives and participation with them equally. Yeah. I want to say that something like virtue is the source of one's virtue is virtue is what I want to say. It's like what has me comported.
I'll repeat, okay? Virtue is the source of one's comportment.
Yeah.
Virtue is what has me comported.
Yeah. It's like, so I want to talk through this a little bit and then come back to it. So there's, because there's this quality about like, there's a quality about to be is to completely be haunted by possibility, right? And virtue seems to be really, really about what's possible, right? And like all virtues have a striving quality to them, right? They're, to be virtuous, it's like, so they announce in some sense what's possible, but they also announce that I'm not totally there, right? And so what's strange about virtues is that they, in some sense, they're not what's here, yet they somehow provide the normativity, the ordering of the normativity of what's here, right?
Yeah. And talk more about that teleological movement that you had referred to. There's a telos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just that kind of way where it seems like this is, as Daniel was talking about, this being in the world, right, seems to be me already always having a sense of what could be. And but it's like there's a quality of really being in it, and that I'm already underway. It seems to be just the very nature of that I'm always, in some sense, comported towards what could be. And everything from my orientation, like it's the most ordinary sense of the word, right? It's in some sense, virtue is governing this kind of orientation and comportment, right? So it's like, seems like what I'm kind of getting is virtue is definitely something that we find ourselves having, right? And being in, right? Being drawn towards. Yet there's so there's something about also about this that in the teleotic sense of that it's somehow, yeah, it co-discloses, right? My it's like the fingers don't touch, right? And in some sense, that's really this. You could say that this really is virtue, and so in so many respects, right? Like, because it's like it has a quality of the measure of what could be, right? Yeah. And so I can see it and I'm drawn towards it, right? Or I see it and I'm like guilty about it and resist it or something. But there's something about like, it's like virtue is being's way of saying, like, I could be so much more, right? Like,
yeah. In that space, in that you had talked about tension as well before, that tension of possibility, and not that tension, would be the telos. Would that be there? Drive the movement.
Totally. So it's like there's the telos is it's just this sense that yeah, of what could be, right? I like all virtues, right? Like justice, right? Compassion, patience, like there's all of them beckon to this quality of the future, right? And yet they also are shaped, right? They also shape the very confines of what I dwell in, right? So like on one level there, it's beyond here, right? Yet here, in some sense, is built, right, in anticipation of it, and right, moving towards it, right? So there's that sense of eidos, right? Like edifying. This both means like eidos. John and I were talking about this. Eidos has a quality of the eidetic, has the quality of both, means like a structure, to build a structure, but also a propulsion. Another meaning is propulses you towards transformation, right? So it's like building, right? It's like Jacob's ladder in some sense, right? And so virtue seems to be that which compels me to build, right? Yeah, there it is.
So virtue is that which compels the building of and the movement toward.
Yes. The perfecting of being.
The perfection of being.
Yeah.
Yeah. The organization of the formation of the structural foundation of, and also the moving toward its perfection.
Totally. And there's this, you can kind of get it, because like on some level, if what's drawing me to build, right, is this is something that is calling to me that isn't here, right? My very building, right, is now building upon what was calling me before, right?
Yeah.
And so in some sense, like that building is what I literally like stand on to then build the next thing that's calling me to build, right? Which that will become the next thing I'm standing on. And at some point, if we stop and then we look down, what do I see, right? Like, there's a whole world that's built, and like, it'll be the shape of, right, being called to build, right, in some sense, right? So there's this kind of quality, and there's definitely going to be a direction to it, and that direction that emerges through that, right, is something like, it's like kind of like I just get this sense of like this kind of being its measure, or realizing it's like realizing itself in some sense.
Yeah, realizing, right? Would it be, if I said realizing its divinity, would that fit? Would that fit?
I think so. Yeah.
And as you're talking about it, organizing and moving towards it, I think John talks about autopoietic systems as well, that self-organize, but also move towards. But it seems I'm sort of getting, again, a cosmic kind of thing about virtue organizing everything according to its own end, which is the realization of its divinity. Would that fit?
Yeah. Virtue, that thing, let's write that down. Virtue virtue is organizing itself to its own end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let me repeat. Virtue is organizing itself towards its own end.
Yep.
Towards the realization of its own end, maybe?
Towards the real. Virtue is organizing itself towards the realization of its own end.
Yeah.
Are you happy?
We're getting there. I want to kind of like, I want to take that and keep it going in the spirit of the other proposals. So virtue, the wholehearted gathering of all possible perspectives in participation with them equally. And what was the thing that we just, would you read what we just wrote down, Daniel?
So the last sentence is, virtue is organizing itself towards the realization of its own end.
Yeah. Let's stick with that.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, I'm kind of I feel like I'm in Aporia.
All right. Yeah. And we've come, I appreciate how far we've come. It feels to me like we sort of started out with a kind of felt sense of what it feels like, but you moved Guy more into a real participation in the mysterious movement of virtue itself, of its power to organize and move towards itself in a way that is beyond any of our perceptual abilities, but we have a sense of that actually moving, and gathering, and the gathering of us, right? Like I appreciate that in effect itself, it's been gathering us.
Yes.
Throughout,
Yes.
Yeah. I have that sense of the mysterious force that has been, enacting itself through our investigation of it.
What I'm really liking, and what you just said, I feel gotten, by the way, but I also feel like there's something about right now that it's present. Like virtue has this quality of like,
it's here.
Yeah. Like,
it just showed its face, sort of like it gave a hint of its presence, Yeah. And so I'm kind of like, I don't know. I think it's mysterious to me. I'm sorry. What's mysterious?
What is it like? Now I think you go into appreciation. We already did appreciation.
Yeah, we already did. Yeah.
Anticipation. Where this is headed.
Anticipation of what I'm kind of, I don't know how to put this, but what I'm anticipating is like it sort of feels like we almost like we were calling out in our intention, calling out to understand or to apprehend what virtue is, and in a sense that calling out was the enactment of virtue itself. Like, it's sort of like, who started all this in the first place? You know, that kind of thing. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. I have that, you know, who knows? Like, and it doesn't matter in a sense, because there's just a great deal of appreciation and gratitude. But like that is totally mysterious, the way that kind of just all, you know.
Yeah.
We were talking about something sort of completely different, weren't we, before? Seems to me, anyway. We were doing our talk, and then all of a sudden it started to show itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Through the calling, you know, it called us. We all felt that, the calling to. And Guy, you talked about it as attention, but it's like it has a voice almost, that tension, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this.
Yeah.
Right. The launch.
It's not static. Like in Daniel's picture, it looks like it's static, but it's not at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we do another round, or just some
Sure.
No, I just asked because of the time, right? Because in 10 minutes it's the full hour. So
yeah. I can go a little bit longer today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we can do another round. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll be the scribe.
Okay.
I will just turn on my lights.
All right.
Sandra, what's virtue? Can you tell me?
I'm to be absolutely honest with you, I'm kind of in such a state of awe that I'm not sure I want to try to articulate, you know, try to sort of pick it apart, you know, what I'm saying. It's sort of like, with the embodiment of the presencing of virtue itself in the, you know what I mean? Like, with that, it almost feels to me like, what else is there that I could possibly say? And it would be almost a travesty for me to start to, you know, to just demean it almost by you know, putting, I don't, you know, I'm not expressing myself very well, but I just feel.
But that's fine. Then let's just try to just try to see what's going on there, and deduce just what's there now. So you said, oh, you were close. you were closing your eyes and you were almost doing this whoosh. So with the presencing of virtue,
yeah,
it brings us to this place where we cannot, right? We have to close our eyes. So immense is the awe. That's what I was getting.
Yeah.
So immense that we also, when we speak about it, it's kind of besides the point.
It's not only beside the point, but it's almost like what's the word? You know, that like it's you dare not, you know, as soon as you say the name of God, there's a term for that. It's a sacrilege, yeah, something like that. Yeah, like once that has presenced itself, it's almost it's a sacrilege to name it. That's how I'm feeling.
So there's almost a sense that I'm getting of okay, the sacrilege, something that cannot and shouldn't be named.
Yeah, shouldn't be.
Yes. Yeah. Is there anything else that's present right now for you?
Well, I noticed I'm kind of shutting my mouth. And you know, like it's yeah, I'm sorry, how on earth could this have happened by just us, you know, wondering about it? You know, it sort of gives a whole new dimension to the word wonder. Like, you know, if you wonder, you might, if you wonder about something, you might just end up in a state of wonder. You know, you never, and who would have thought that might happen? How wonderful.
Yeah.
That us wondering about something, we might end up in that state. How marvelous, you know, that this is maybe all we have to do is wonder. Maybe that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we, as long as we wonder about something, as long as we wonder about something, you know, it's possible that we actually, you know, realize wonder.
Yeah.
That it's available to us. I think that this dialectic into dialogos practice, God, I think this practice is not a bad practice at all. Do you know that?
That's great to hear. Yes.
What a statement.
I think you're on to something there. I really do. I really do.
I think we're on to something for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I do.
So the presencing of virtue brings us to a place that we experience as a sacrilege, and that takes our speech away, and that makes us.
No, certainly not sacrilege. It doesn't bring us to sacrilege. Talking about it would. To a sense of, it can, to a sense of wonder. Yeah. To speak its name is sacrilege. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like it almost it almost, it's almost like a calling to beyond, like there's something about a relationship to something that's beyond being.
Yeah, 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 exactly, exactly, yeah, exactly. But is always available, you know? It's always present. It's not as if we have to run through, jump through hoops or prove ourselves to be worthy, or that we're, all that stuff. We don't, it's always present. All we have to do is wonder.
And that is somehow virtuous, or that is virtue.
And it's virtue itself that makes the wonder happen. In effect, virtue is always wondering about itself, and in a way.
Virtue is always wondering about itself. That's a wonderful.
It's the virtue is the good.
Virtue is the good.
As it enacts itself, yeah.
As it enacts itself.
And it, and the beautiful and the true, it's all of them as they enact themselves.
Okay.
That was 10 minutes.
Okay, I will.
Really? Was it?
Yeah. They were very, very fast. But that was good. Okay, where to start? I appreciate the dramatic dimension that you opened up. That was also announcing itself while Guy was proposing.
Yeah.
That you were brought to a point where you couldn't, or you had this feeling you shouldn't say anything. That if you would speak its name, that would violate something, take something away from the wonder. That was very good. And then the place just where you ended up, virtue is always wondering about itself. Virtue is the good as it enacts itself. So there's a relation of being to itself that we tap into with the presencing of wonder. Being wondering about itself, being in awe about itself, and working towards it, or realizing its own end. This is what Guy said, right, in the last proposal.
Yeah.
The self-organizing, self-realizing towards its own end. So that's very that's very good. Do you want to say something to that, Sandra?
Well, when you say that's very good, what do you mean, Daniel? What?
You said virtue is the good as it enacts itself. I can just say that that's good. That, and what you said, right? It seems, let's just say what this, it's good. there's something true about it, and it's in a sense beautiful. There's a great beauty in this dramatic coming, presencing wonder, savoring it, being stunned by it, and then saying just that it's good.
Yeah. So I asked that because I was wondering if you meant that sort of aligns with your ideas or whatever. But when I kind of reflect on that, what I feel is a sense of liberation, like a sense of salvation, of hope, of, that kind of thing. That if in that sense, the real or the kind of glimpse of the reality of this is liberating, offers a path of liberation or something like that, of understanding and liberation, and like that. And that's good in that sense.
So virtue opens up a path towards liberation, towards freedom.
Freedom, yeah. And all we really have to do is wonder. Is just open to wonder. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I don't have anything to add. I would like to end it there. I think that's good for today.
We can go to free form for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. We can just go into free form just a little bit.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that. It sounds like that. There was that moment, right, where suddenly what we were talking about, like what I'm hearing Sandra say, is like what you were talking about found itself present, right?
Yeah.
And that was the experience of the awe, right? And speechlessness.
Yeah.
This is kind of what I was trying to get at before when I was saying, usually we talk about all of this from the perspective of the cave. So we have to make a leap so it becomes real. And what I saw in Sandra was suddenly it became real. And with that, then also this dimension of wonder and freedom opens up. So that's why I like the dramatic enactment of this. But it's only in the practice, in the enactment of virtue itself, that virtue can become present. That's why the practice is also important for the philosophers. Because when you just talk about it, we are stuck in this cave.
Of our own concepts and notions and ideas and forms and all that stuff.
That's why I think Christ always says, give away your possessions, go to the sick, go to those to the sinners, to the prisoners. Do something in the real world. Don't just stay in your cave, where you just reflect about everything. So virtue has so much to do with this. Also this striving for what's real, and with that becoming free. And with that also being afforded wonder. And I really like that, Sandra, you were able to show it to us in your enactment in the last round.
Yeah, I feel a bit, when that happened, I felt a bit like, I don't know, like I should be able to be a bit more articulate and sound, you know, but at the same time, I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to reduce it to the level of words and language, you know, I just didn't want to. Guy, and Guy, when you started to, I think what happened for me when you started opening it out to the movement itself, you know, like it and you started talking about it as both drawing it, organizing it, and drawing it, you know, that whole thing, and that had no form itself, but it created form, that all that, you know, that kind of idea. And I started to sort of see, wow, you know, that's when it started to kind of presence itself. Yeah. So it moved through all of us.
Yeah.
Gradually.
Yeah.
And then became, you know, greater than all of us.
Right.
And
right.
Boom, you know.
Totally. And here we were in a structure, right?
Yeah.
Right. Standing on that structure, right?
Yeah.
Like in the process of building something more of the structure, right? And then realizing like that, oh, this is exactly what we're doing. It was like we were educated in that sense. Right there.
Yeah. We're not talking about it. It's talking itself through us. Yeah. Yeah. It was really amazing.
I love that, Sandra. You just look like, you look so cocky in that second. You're like,
oh, yeah.
You're like, word.
That's so fun. God. Yeah. And you know, it's just full of, it's just wonderful. It's fun. It's marvelous. It's
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's not heavy, you know.
And then that sense of wonderment too that you were getting. You really just do get the kind of like how philosophy, right, arose out of the disposition of wonderment.
Yeah.
Right. And
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something about wonder that it seems to be the right thing for being as such to disclose itself.
To just
right?
open itself to itself. Yeah, exactly. Like, like when we started to wonder as a species, when we started to wonder, we had no idea where it might take us.
Yeah. This is often what Ivo de Gennaro says, right? We have no idea what happened there. When suddenly those pre-Socratic philosophers talk about when being, right, there's the need to say and think that being is, and with all the wondering, when they have no idea what's going on there.
That started the whole thing, right? Right there.
So good work today.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Very virtuous.
Was it?
Good work today.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Same time next week.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.